The morning of January 25, 2011 was not an ordinary morning. It marked the beginning of a new chapter in Egypt's history. After 3 decades of suffering under Hosni Mubarak's brutal regime, thousands of Egyptians went out in mass protests, demanding 3 simple things: bread, freedom, and social justice. The regime struck back with a vengeance, using the only method they knew: violence. But against all odds, Egyptians fought back, tearing down the fear barrier in the first step of their struggle against tyranny. On January 28th, the confrontation escalated when the police, outnumbered by the thousands who were willing to die, withdrew from the streets, making way for the army. The army was hailed as the noble protectors, but their dangerous neutrality had them watching from the sidelines, while thugs on horse and camelbacks attacked the square in one of the revolution's bloodiest days, known as the Camel Battle. For 18 days and nights, Egyptians held their ground in Tahrir Square and other squares around the country, fighting for their dream to live in a free democratic Egypt.
قرر الرئيس محمد حسني مبارك تخليه عن منصب رئيس الجمهورية، وكلف المجلس الأعلى للقوات المسلحة لإدارة شؤون البلاد، والله الموفق والمستعان.
On February 11th, Mubarak stepped down and handed over power to the Supreme Council of Armed Forces. Celebrations erupted nationwide as people flooded Tahrir Square, the epicenter of the people's triumph. In a state of euphoria, they danced and sang to the sounds of a victory they once deemed as beyond their wildest dreams. But was the fight really over? Did the revolution succeed? Soon enough, it became clear that the ouster of Mubarak had indeed marked a new chapter in Egyptian history, that of military police brutality. Suspicious of SCAF, protesters returned to Tahrir holding an open sit-in.
SCAF is basically Mubarak's loyal army generals, and there is no place for them in New Egypt.
But when the sit-in was violently dispersed by military police and many protesters were arrested, the violations hit a brand new level, with the saga of civilians tried in military trials.
We have over 12,000 cases and that were tried in front of a military court, which didn't happen in the 30 years of Hosni Mubarak.
With SCAF introducing new methods of repression, protesters had no alternative but to return to the streets. Over the time span of 6 months, Cairo witnessed a series of deadly clashes, which started late June, when police clashed with protesters once more in Tahrir. The violence prompted a 3-week sit-in in the square, which was again violently dispersed by military police in August. Empowered by their newfound culture of opposition, protesters continued to hold mass demonstrations every Friday to pressure SCAF to meet their demands. But SCAF followed a zero-tolerance policy, which reached new heights when protesters attacked the Israeli embassy in September. 1 month later, the military police attacked the mostly Coptic protest in Maspero, resulting in the highest single-day death toll since February's Camel Battle.
This is not about sectarian issues, this is not about Copts and Muslims, this is about people versus the army.
But the worse the crackdown, the more vocal and persistent protesters responded. In November, when police violently dispersed a few hundred protesters, within a week, the confrontations turned into a full-fledged sit-in, including thousands of Egyptians indignant at the unnecessary use of excessive force. Just 3 weeks later, the military police attacked what was left of the sit-in near Cabinet. But this time, the brutality was unprecedented. The army's only resort was to barricade the entire downtown Cairo area, setting up concrete barriers to contain any attempt of reoccupying the square. A year after the revolution, and with the first post-Mubarak parliament sworn in, the question still remains. Did Egypt really change after the revolution? Or is the old system manifesting itself with a new name and a new face?